Hello everyone, we are blessed yet again to be joined by another phenomenal coach, a guy that's recruited quite a few from us. How many?
Over my career, probably close to 10, over 10.
So he's my go-to guy, and I'll allow you to introduce yourself.
My name is Mark Delmonico. I'm the director of track and field and cross country at Tiffin University in Tiffin, Ohio.
We're just going to list off a ton of questions which I think will be really useful for you kids. They are a top-end D2 program, and I think what I want to try and do with this is make the point that this program is as good as, if not better, than many D1 schools. So, number one, what is the first thing you look for in a recruit?
Yeah, the first thing that we look for definitely is times. I mean, that's what's going to catch our eye. Can they have a big impact on our program at the conference level, from there at the national level? Once we identify, these times will have a big impact for us and our program. Then we reach out, try to set up a Zoom call, kind of find out a little bit more about them, what they're looking for in identifying a school that's a good fit, whether they want a big school, small school, what kind of location they want for their university, facilities, training partners, all that kind of stuff. And we just kind of tell them a little bit about, what we're all about at Tiffin, what we have to offer, and kind of see if, what they're looking for and what we have to offer line up. And then, we kind of go from there and set up a Zoom call with, our team. I think that's really big, that they're going to be a good fit with the people that they're going to spend a majority of their time with over 2 to 4 years with us. Then we go from there, and hopefully they're at Tiffin the following fall.
And then make them a big scholarship offer, right?
Then we make them a big scholarship offer.
Okay, I've got another question. So obviously there's differences with the eligibility rules between D1 and D2. How much does that change your recruitment process of an athlete?
Well, I think it opens up a little bit more for us than at the D1 level. There's no clock, so we don't have to necessarily worry about, that type from a time standpoint. It's all based on semesters, so you get 10 semesters. Might change in the next couple years. This past NCAA convention, they were going to vote on giving everyone 5 years of eligibility, so we'll see what happens down the road. But it definitely opens up, some new possibilities for us as far as, where they are, if they're coming here for grad school. We're not limited in terms of, their age.
What is your preferred method of an athlete reaching out to you? Like email, Instagram, WhatsApp, and what do you want to get from that first message they send you?
I think the easiest thing for us is definitely email. Obviously DMs on like Instagram or other social media. If they get my number through you, that's all obviously very good. But I think email has been the best way of reaching out to us, kind of talking a little bit about themselves, what their GPA is, what they want to major in, what their times are, all those types of things. And then, we usually try to reply as soon as we can. And then, like I said, set up that Zoom call where, I'm introducing myself and then talking a little bit about Tiffin.
You're actually a rapid replier, to be fair. Mark's on it, more than me. Another question, what is the biggest red flag when you're recruiting someone? So even if they've got fantastic times, you're going through a recruitment process, what would be potentially a couple of things where you'd go, ugh, okay, that's going to be really difficult for me to move forwards with confidence in terms of offering this kid?
I think kind of when talking a little bit about training and what our philosophy is at Tiffin. We are more of a mileage-based program, so someone that's coming from really low mileage, from a sprinter background, at least for our middle distance program, sometimes I might say, I don't know if this is going to be a good fit. And then talking to them of just about like, what do they want out of their college experience? If the first question they ask me is how much scholarship can you offer? Being a Division II program, we're not funded like the big Division I's. I think for me that makes me think like, okay, well, if they're just going to chase the biggest offer, the biggest scholarship, this might not be a good fit for us, because we obviously like to make very healthy offers to athletes, especially those that are coming internationally. That's a big red flag for me, as far as like if the first question you ask me is, well, so how much money can you offer me? I'm kind of just like, oh, maybe this isn't, we need to move on. And I think the other thing is just how they deal with adversity, which is bound to happen in college track and field and cross country. How do they rebound from a bad race? How do they rebound from maybe disagreements with the coaches? Can you have a healthy discussion? All those types of things. Can they be mature about how they go about, how they conduct themselves when that adversity hits?
I would say for me, guys, the one thing I've noticed with the athletes I work with, the ones who go on and perform much better, they're really calm when they have poor races, or maybe if they have a bad block of training. They're more analytical and they don't really ever throw their toys out the pram. So I'll give you a great example, right? Yesterday, David Holman, one of our lads at Wingate, ran 8:01, had a chat with him afterwards. He was like, okay, probably drew a bad race at some point. You know, there was no crying, hissy fitting. It was just a very analytical, like, okay, all good, we go again. So I would always suggest for any kid, when you're going through a recruitment process, just be a bit calmer when things don't go well, and just be a little bit more reflective and analytical, because that's going to allow you to come back better and stronger the next time around. Right, another question. What would be like a green flag? So you get a kid on a call and you think, okay, like this, whatever it is, this makes me feel really confident in terms of making an offer.
I think as we have that first Zoom call, it's hard to describe this, but just that connection that you have and you're getting along, and it just feels like the conversation is flowing, and that, you know, if they were on our team, on a part of our program, that, hey, this would be a great fit. But as we're, you know, questions that we're asking, like, you know, what are your aspirations while you're in college? You know, we are a high-level Division II program. We have aspirations both for our individuals and for our team every year to do really well at the conference meet, to do really well at the national meet. So, you know, those aspirations always are a big turn on for us. You know, some that, hey, I really want to be an All-American, or I want to run this time. I think for me is always like, hey, that's someone that we really want to be a part of our program, that can help elevate not only themselves when they're with us, but the people that are around them. That's been huge, like kind of when we talk for the first time of, you know, hey, what are you looking for? And, you know, what do you hope to accomplish, you know, while you're in college?
What do you think you can offer as a strong D2 program that D1 programs cannot?
Well, I think the number one thing that we can offer, especially when you compare us to mid-majors, which is, you know, a lot of conversations I have with recruits, is, you know, we have facilities that maybe even mid-majors don't have. We have an indoor track facility where on days like today, you know, we're in Boston and it's under 10 degrees outside. You know, we're able to train inside on an indoor track, get all of our work done. We have an outdoor facility right down the road that is ours. So we have a cross-country course right on campus. I think from there, you know, providing opportunities that we may not get at a Division I. So like we're in Boston right now. We traveled a couple guys and gals out here. You know, unless you're, you know, tip top at your program in D1, you may not get to travel at all. So we're providing those experiences and those opportunities that you may not get, you know, going to the Division I level. And I think the last thing is just success. You know, we have had a lot of people, a lot of your athletes that have come through, experience really high levels of success. So whether that's, you know, all conference champion, making NCAAs, being an All-American, winning NCAAs, you know, those are all things that are a realistic possibility on the individual side of things. And then our program from the team side of things is always contending to win the conference title. I don't know, you know, what that looks like at every Division I program, but I know within ours, you know, we're able to offer that you may not get that at another school where, you know, maybe you're busting your butt, and, you know, no matter how well you do or the individuals do, you'll never win a team title, or you'll never be in contention to go to NCAAs. I think those are all realistic things that can happen within our program.
No, 100%. I'll give a good example of this, right? So our lad Zach, that's with them, travelled to Boston yesterday and got a PB in the 5K. Now, guaranteed, he's a grad lad, got a couple of years of eligibility. If he went to a D1 school, the likelihood he's going to be able to go to Boston or go to any of the meets on the road is very small, because in many instances, you have a budget that you need to operate within. Maybe you have some strong athletes that you'll travel and try and get maybe on the periphery of getting into regionals or getting through there. You can't travel everyone. So my view is, if you're a kid, you normally want to pick a program where you're sort of maybe coming through the door a little bit higher up, so you get those opportunities to go and compete and showcase where your talent and fitness is at. Okay, a couple other questions. What would be standards right now for you, quote unquote? I know it's always a very common question.
Yeah, those are always floating from year to year. This year, you know, in some events our conference is down, so it's a little bit slower to maybe get in that top 8 in score or be all conference. Some years it's been really competitive, like last year in the 800 to be all conference, you had to break 150. I don't know if that's necessarily the case this year, but it's a floating number. I would say we definitely are looking for, at the bare minimum, if you look at the Great Midwest Conference, which is what we're in, you know, what can score? You know, what can be in the top 4? And then from there, what can make the NCAA championships? You know, when we're looking at our bigger offers that we're making to guys and gals, can you come in right away, win the conference, and then make the NCAA championships? I think that's really huge for us, especially in the athletes we're investing a little bit more financially in. Cross country wise, it's what can be all conference, so that's top 20 in the GMAC. You know, can you be in our top 5, top 7? I know in the UK sometimes, you know, they're doing road races, they're doing park runs. So we look a lot at track times, because European cross country is not like American cross country.
At least you know that. Hey?
Yes, I'm very well aware that, you know, you guys are running through mud and hay bales, and it's a lot lot different than, American cross country where we're running on manicured golf courses. So I look a lot at track times when it comes to making those bigger, financial investments into student athletes.
Exactly. How do you assess potential? I've got my own, I guess, thoughts of how you can maybe try and establish whether that kid can make a decent step forwards, but what's your process if you're trying to look at maybe the potential of an athlete?
I think, how long have they been running? What has their mileage been like? And then my conversation with you.
Yeah.
I rely a lot of what you know about the person that we're recruiting or talking to, and you've done a great job at, saying, hey, this guy or gal would be a great fit for your program. And so I rely a lot on, what your evaluation has been of that person. And like I said, what kind of mileage, where would they fit in within our program? Are they running high mileage and they're already running like 350, or are they running, a little bit lower mileage, and when they get to Tiffin, we can bump them up a little bit and increase the intensity a little bit, and that 350 can go to 345, 340, or that 430 can go to 425, 420. So we look a lot at that. And I would say, if you have a lot of potential, right, that may allow us to maybe invest a little bit more in you, knowing that maybe down the road, this investment in scholarship in you will pay off in doing really well at the conference meet, or making the national meet and doing really well there.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think foot speed's a big one. Attitude, because it's all very well having a ceiling in terms of being able to grow into it, but there needs to be a willingness to maybe do what the coach wants in terms of from a training and background, etc. If you're talented, that's all very well and good, but if you don't have the willingness to want to be better as well, the potential means absolutely nothing. Okay, and one last question. What do you expect in terms of timelines from a recruit? So when do you want them to contact you? When do you want them to do like the applications and NCAA eligibility, etc.? If you're going to go from like initiation of contact all the way through to like, you've got your offer that you want to make to a kid, what would be the run through of timelines?
If we're thinking fall 2026, I like to start recruiting, in the previous summer, summer 2025 into the fall, setting up those Zoom calls, identifying certain athletes that I feel will fit really well with our program, whether it's times, whether it's overall fit in the university and, our coaching staff and what we have to offer. And then from there, it really depends on what that financial offer looks like. If it's a big financial offer, I don't like to have that money sitting around for too long. So we may have a little bit shorter of a timeline of like, hey, I really need to know, because if you're not interested, then I need to move forward, with somebody else, or I need to move that money around to, other, even American high school students that we're recruiting. And if it's a smaller offer, I may be a little bit more lenient in timeline, say, okay, you can take your time, but, I have a roster to fill, and that's what I tell recruits, whether I'm talking to them on Zoom or they're in my office in Tiffin, and say, if you're not interested, I just need to know. It's a business, we'll move on and move forward. Don't take any offense to it. But I think, in terms of timeline, we'd like to have our initial phone calls in the fall. We also ask them, what their timelines are. Are you looking to maybe get through track season and run a bit faster, so hopefully this, scholarship offer goes up, or are you willing to make a decision right now? And, we relay to them, well, based on your timeline, here's what we're looking at. And it ranges anywhere from, maybe a couple weeks to a month, month and a half. I'm pretty flexible in working with them, because ultimately if it's someone I really want, I don't want to rush them into a decision. I want to make sure that, like I said, this is a good fit, that you feel comfortable with me as your coach, with Tiffin as the school that you're going to attend, and that if you are talking to, some other schools, that you get to talk to those coaches and ask what they're all about, and ultimately they're coming back to me and saying, hey, this is where I want to go to school next year. So yeah, that's kind of like our timeline. Like I said, we like to have the bulk of our recruits signed in the fall, but we've had some guys and gals that you've recommended that have rolled in the spring, whether they're just late signees, late bloomers. So, we'll talk to them, regardless of the time of the year. In terms of scholarship, that varies obviously with what's available, and what we have and what has been accepted.
I think we'll leave it there. I'm going back to bed. Top man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it always,
thank
man.
you.